Hey everybody, Nick Brazier here with a video on categorizing errors from your match review. In one of my last videos I went over how to analyze a match after playing it, how to get good practice with positions, figure them out, figure out the themes, and go through not only mistakes but positions you understood as well, and just sort of reinforce your learning match by match. The thing that seems to miss out on though are general trends in your play, and try to figure out if you're actually plugging any gaps, if there's like major areas of your game that you need to look at that you're not aware of. And for that, I think you need to do some categorizing of errors. I think that also allows you to take a bunch of positions together and sort of look at themes and figure out, well, if maybe I'm missing, not playing pure enough, or I'm not sending early enough, or I make mistakes late in the game but not early in the game. It can help you find trends. I am going to start with one way that I've done that. This is what I tended to get the most value out of later in my study, but this is actually for a student of mine. And I am still looking for students, by the way. I've got, I think, 3 people I'm starting lessons with. There have been this week, and half dozen others that I should be getting started with in the next couple weeks. But it can always take on more. So if you're interested in that, reach out at Facebook, I guess is probably the easiest way to get me. But yeah, when I'm working with a student, I can play with them and hear how they think about a game and get a lot out of that. But the volume of decisions across something like 10 matches can be very helpful. So for your own study, that's the first time, like maybe 10 matches is as small as 10 7-point-ish matches is probably the smallest sample where you're going to start to see some trends. I found a whole tournament weekend was very helpful to me. So I like to ask for something like that to go through with people that I work with, and it's a lot easier to do, surprisingly enough, with someone else's game than it is with my own at this point. I think part of that is you don't know what it is that you don't know, and when I'm looking at someone else's game, I can see trends in it that I'm aware of. But the reason that I'm getting positions wrong when I'm studying my own matches is because I don't know them. But it still tends to show me some trends, and I've gotten a lot out of that, probably even more than the Evernote like super categorization, which I'll show later. But yeah, so I found some good broad high level categories going through my positions in matches are first of all to start at early, middle, and late game and break them all out that way. Maybe that's just me, but I found that the way the game works changes fundamentally at sort of these inflection points. That in the early game, the way that I would explain different tactics and game plan scenarios is different than in the middle game, where you tend to be starting to resolve into some sort of decision. I think you can see that probably a lot of the categories are going to be like opening or game plan, I think, are very helpful ones in the early game. You also see I have all my checker plays separated from cube plays. I think that's quite helpful. But you'll also find, too, if you just don't make that big of categories and then go through all of your early game positions, you might eventually see some trend in it and come up with a name for that later. But I think the goal here is to start clumping together the positions that you want to look at, whether they're things you got right and want to reinforce, or got right for the wrong reason, or things that you got wrong. And so broader categories, I think, work a little better for this. And surprisingly enough, something as simple as just a document I found helps me quite a bit with that. Really quickly on the format here, too, you'll see I have the amount of equity I lost, so that if I was doing something really granular with this, I would do it in a spreadsheet, and so I can formula together, maybe I have holding game mistakes that happened in early, middle, and late, and I want to tally all those together. So I can do a little more with that. Here at a glance, it was easy enough to just work with this. But I think, bringing in the equity that you lost on the play, and then the play, so you can look at it, is quite helpful. If you haven't seen this before, this is the Extreme Gammon ID. If I copy that with Control-C, and then bring over an instance of Extreme Gammon and Control-Paste it, it's going to put that position into Extreme Gammon for me. It looks like this ID. You can learn exactly how that's constructed. But if you ever want to take a position and get it that way, you can export XGID to clipboard. And it's just a really handy thing, so you don't have to be entering this into XG every time. You don't have to clog up your study document with a bunch of images, something like that. It gets to the point, shows you how many positions you had and some category and how much equity you lost. So I think that's a really helpful tool in XG for this kind of study. But yeah, I think I covered most of it though. So early, I kind of mentioned there's some committing to game plan kind of things, and opening are like probably the main things I'm looking at there. And then cubes have different fundamental, like Pratt is kind of in Blitz references come up a lot in early cube stuff. But then when you get in the middle game, maybe you both have holding games and you have a mutual holding game that just began, or someone's kind of got the clear advantage. There seem to be more structured decisions and more references around what kind of game we're in that we're getting towards. And then in the late game, maybe it could be as far as, of course, bear off, bear in is going to be only in the deep game probably, and so different tactics there. But then you start to run into these like stay or go kind of decisions in the late game, some a lot more tactical things. You see a lot bigger swings in equity. If you choose the wrong idea, that can be the difference between losing the game and being a huge favorite. So I found it very helpful to, even though we might have holding game decisions in the late game and in the middle game and in the early game, I feel like they act different across these. So this has been a useful thing for me to study. And, it should be pretty, I thought it was pretty easy going through here too to see that I felt like I was adding middle game, just like market loser-ish kind of cubes. We have some sort of threat. And so that category kind of showed itself very quickly. And there are also early cubes in holding games quite often. So trends like this, it'll help you out. And if you don't know what category to put it in, it's okay. You'll still get categories yourself, but that's part of the benefit, I think, in studying these positions this way too, actually. And that's where the tactical value of Evernote comes in. Here, when I first started tracking positions here, I was trying to get super granular. And the basic structure of Evernote is I create a note article. I'm dropping the XG in there and screenshots of the position, maybe some explanation of how I understand this works, what I got wrong. If I got, an explanation from my teacher online somewhere, I might paste that in here so I remember how to find this position in the future and just try to collect my thoughts around it. Another one that I had here, I go through quite a few adjustments and variants and trying to understand the position that way and what the tipping points are. And so if I'm going to do that kind of work, I might as well capture the good references in there and have some deeper understanding I can just look at without having to think about what tweaks I can make to the position next time around. So I think that's all good stuff to do. But the big thing is just trying in Evernote, I tried to get as many tags as I could think of that may be helpful someday in here. And you can see I have almost 1,200 positions in here now, and I have an absurd amount of tags, and many of them I don't use. And I think that's okay. I can look through some of these and see some of the ideas I've had. But the nice thing about this is that for sure one thing you do, if you come up with some theme that you want to try to tackle or something you're noticing a bunch of mistakes, then it's good to start to collect those positions and tag them all as such and have them all to review at once and see if you start to see themes in them. And this might be an easier way to do that. It helps you when you want to come back to review them. But the tags and the categories, the nice thing about this with tags is that they don't have to be right. If you never use the tag again, it doesn't hurt to have it there. You just, it won't be something that you search on to organize your positions, but I can pretty easily look at my tags here and sort them by the ones being used the most and realize that I've got pretty, what my most sturdy categories are, which are game plan decisions, end game decisions, or early versus end, and then middle game I have down here too, which not as many. But I have a lot of holding games, and the nice thing about the holding game too is I tried to split that out and tag with the different anchors so that if I want to refine it to that, I can look over games that way. So now what I can do is go pick any one of those categories to see all the positions from that category, and that's going to show me all my notes. And if I want to add it too, I can just also go to my filter and say maybe I only want to see the 3-point anchor holding games that I've got and positions on that, and I've only got 15 of those. And so now I have those. Or maybe I only want to see checker plays with that too. So I made something as simple as a checker versus cube tag, so I can filter that way too. But yeah, as far as like a positional library for reviewing topics all at once, I think this tagging system in Evernote can be pretty good. I considered using OneNote, and it didn't feel like it was as searchable. It relied a little bit more on having good chapters, tags, top-level categories, I thought, and you could search like this, but I thought it was harder to filter by any level of tags that you wanted to. But still, I'm not comfortable or confident that I have all the best tags on there, and I think coming up with ways to label this that you might come back to or later is actually quite a big part of the value of this exercise. I think if you struggle to do that, it's a good indication that you don't understand exactly what's going on in the position yet, that there's the reason you may be making a mistake is because you don't know what the most important theme is, and therefore where to categorize it with the rest of your positions. So if you struggle to do that, I think that's actually good feedback in your study, and you can go post it in Backgammon Strategy and see how other people solve that problem, ask for explanations. You can reach out to whoever you're working with, if you're working on your game with a teacher or coach or something like that, see how they would categorize it or what they see as the major themes of the position. And I would specifically tag ones like that positions that I felt like I understood and had good categories for reviewing later, and then use this question marks tag for ones where I was like, I don't know where that fits, or I don't know what's going on, I don't know what's right, I could use some help on this one to follow up later. I had an uncategorized tag like that too. So yeah, again, I think it's just quite helpful to notice the positions that you struggle to categorize, because there's probably a reason for that. But we can look through, again, some of I found it useful, of course, to go by some game types in early game checker versus cube. I specifically try to mark all of the score-related plays too. I don't see it right now, but I have a score play category, or there it is, with a lot of positions. So I try to specifically mark it as such if the reasoning is because of some special match score. All my doubles that I've played, those can be ones that people lose a lot of equity on, so I can go, I think, study specifically all of I might have them tagged by like 3-3 and 2-2 and 6-6 and all that too. So those are some useful ones, runner stay decisions, all of these kinds of things. Maybe you'll see some ideas in here. But again, the idea with this level of tagging is just the more tags you come up with, take some time to think about it. But this is a good example of position too that I have just a ton of things on. I did for a while too, tagging things as blunders or 200 plus, so that I could come look at my biggest mistakes altogether and try to review that way. But yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways to do this kinds of position analysis. I think people struggle to understand where to even get started or how they might end up at 1,200 notes, but I don't know, this is maybe 5 years of position review and categorization. Eventually it accumulates and you have something that's useful, and I'm finding it most useful it's like a bank of positions for constructing lessons now. I don't know if I was able to use this as review before tournaments all that often, but I don't know. It comes in handy someday. It feels like at least you're not like wasting lessons you learned. That is one last tag that I found super helpful. So I just specifically tried to mark positions as reference positions when I thought that they were either if I constructed one that was nice and borderline and I thought would be worth reviewing later, or if I just thought I should look at it more because it's a difficult one to me or it doesn't make a lot of sense, or thought it'd be useful somewhere along the way. So that can be a really powerful category as well, is you can categorize your mistakes, and then the ones that you specifically really think that you should come and look at more often, you can mark that way too. Yeah, let me know what you think. Hope that helps. If you have any questions about categories or how to use Evernote, I guess. I don't know. I don't work for Evernote, but I found it useful. The only issue I ran into there was you may have to pay for some sort of subscription if you use up enough storage pasting images in. So you can watch out for that, but I think the subscription to Evernote's pretty cheap, and if you don't like that, you can work with OneNote or something on your desktop or file systems. But yeah, hope that gives some ideas. I think it's all about just coming up with somewhere to start and just working on it and seeing where you get. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it exactly. So good luck in your studying. Until next time.